Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on May the 13th, 2025. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, my newest enabler.
Caffeine Rage.
On today's episode, we will, of course, be discussing some games that we played, although I say, of course, it's been a minute. World of Warcraft is getting a one-button option that will automatically cast the ideal next spell, but it comes at a cost. Microsoft reportedly lays off 3%, or to lay off 3%, which is approximately 6,800 employees. And Blizzard's Overwatch team just unionized. Quote, what I want to protect most here is the people. And then finally, even Starfield's community's patch modders are growing disenchanted. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
How are you?
Tired, sore, sitting on my heating pad, enjoying life.
Okay, great. I mean, I think that's a wrap, right? We can call it a night. Sweet.
Yep. Well, it was a short one, but our best show yet.
Bye-bye. Oh, no. Nope. Yeah, I'm discombobulated tonight. I'm all over the place. I told you in the lead up that I built a new PC this weekend, and I am on said PC, and I'm in that process of like reinstalling everything and then realizing like, oh, right, this tool wasn't included and there are two things I use together, so I need to go download this or update all the things or dealing with the little problems. So I've gone like, my brain is all over the place. And I've ran into a couple of minor problems because, of course, you cannot build a PC unless you pay both the blood tax to the computer gods, and then, you have to fight off the tech glitch goblins or whatever. So I did cut my finger while we were putting this thing together. Nothing major. I've hurt myself worse on prior builds.
Well, you gotta donate blood.
That's right.
Otherwise,
So
it doesn't work.
It's the classic. I picked up the case to move something, and I felt like a little pain, just like a little prick in my finger. And then I go look at it, and I have sliced it on a corner of something. So I paid the blood for the blood gods. This is the first PC that I have built with my son, like in its entirety. He actually aided in the process. It took us like 6 hours because I kept having to stop to explain things to him because he would ask questions, and I let him do as much as he possibly could on his own, and then kind of would go behind if needed and correct but that just made the process take longer. But the main things, of course, like the main specs of the build, got an RTX 3070, and there's some letters after that. I don't remember the specific version of the card, but RTX 3070. So it's not a brand spanking new card, but considering that I went from a GTX 1070 to that, it is a pretty monumental power increase. Like just looking at like the generic benchmarks, it's like 80% more powerful or 90% more powerful. So not quite a doubling of my GPU power, but pretty close. And I bought 2 new monitors to go with it, which I haven't set up yet because my new desk hasn't come in yet. I'm redoing my entire setup. And so I didn't take the monitors off of the stand and everything until the new desk gets here. I don't want to have to do that twice. So, but I'm still staying at 1080p. Personally, I don't see a massive improvement between 1080 and 2 or 4K. And so, I don't need as huge of an increase as if I was trying to target like a much higher resolution. But so we've got an RTX. That's something I have to get used to saying because I've had a GTX for forever, even before the GTX 1070. I had a GTX 750 and then a 970 and then a 1070. And then somewhere in the middle, there was an RX 480, my one AMD card. But anyways, RTX 3070, I have 64 gigabytes of RAM, which I had 32 in my older machine. So doubled that and higher speed, higher capacity. And then I got to pull up the processor that I went with because I can't remember this. I went AMD this time. Got a Ryzen 7 7800X3D, which is an 8-core, 16-thread processor. Um, so that's a huge bump as well. It's like, I think rated like 3 or 4 times stronger than my prior CPU. And then I went with liquid cooled this time, not a custom loop. And then crazy amounts of storage. Because what this is, I get to write it off on my taxes because I started my own clinic. I think I know I've talked to you about this a bunch, Rage. I think I mentioned this on the show once or twice, but I am easing into my own personal practice.
Yeah, so how do you spell spin in your office chair? You go,
How does that make you feel? But
no. It needs to be. How does that make you feel limited?
right. But how does that make you feel, LTD? But I am doing primarily telehealth at this new practice, and I probably always will. I don't think I want to open a physical location. So, man, my computer was very aged, starting to have some problems. The old GPU needs to be torn down, cleaned out, replace the thermal paste. My processor, I'm worried, is starting to have some problems just because of its age, because it's 11 years old now. So I was like, yeah, I was gonna have to like buy something anyways. I was like, you know what? I might as well do a pretty solid upgrade. I could have spent a lot more money, but my budget was 2,500 in total, including the monitors. I spent like 2,300, and I'm happy with that. I have a bunch of storage because I need to have redundant backups for all of my records. So I've got 2 4 terabyte hard disks that are exclusively going to be for redundant storage for like documents and medical records and that kind of thing. I'm going to build an on-site server for additional backups using like all of my old stuff. I'm going to set up my own server here. Just keep it confined to my network. I suppose technically somebody could get in it, but it's never going to go out to the internet. It's going to stay local. And then like for my own personal use, I've got 4 terabytes of various SSDs. I've got a 1 terabyte NVMe, and then a 1 terabyte SSD in a 2.5-inch format, and then a 2 terabyte SSD. I already had the 1 terabyte, and I just ripped it out of an external enclosure and shoved it in there. So very happy about my new build. Have been dealing with minor issues. The particular model of the RTX 3070 that I have was known to have overheating problems, and so I have just undervolted it slightly, which seems to have dealt with that until I can get better sort of airflow management for my case. Which it is a wood grain glass panel case. There's no RGB in this thing, which I like. It just is sitting over here next to my lamp. And so there's just this glass, and you can see all of the components inside, and then like one of the like a front quarter panel, and then the side is wood, and that makes me happy. So that's my new PC.
Yeah, whenever I was building mine, it was fucking hard to find anything that was an RGB, and also I couldn't really find a case I liked that didn't have a window.
Well, the AIO has RGB, but it's on a separate plug than the fan controller, so I just didn't plug in the RGB. And then the GPU has got RGB on it, actually, where it says GeForce on it, or no, sorry, EVGA. It's an EVGA card that is lit up with RGB, and I have turned it off, and then when I updated the drivers, it turned back on. So, and I haven't went and turned it off again. But I'm pretty impressed with how, I'm pretty impressed with lots of stuff about this build because I have been, in the same little box for a decade, basically. Um, so to be in a much bigger box, everything is like, ooh, wow. But I was surprised at like how little power it needs. I mean, it needs power, but I was able to only need a 750-watt power supply. Like even if like everything running like full tilt was like 580 watts is what PC Part Picker told me. So I just went with the 750-watt power supply. I was pretty impressed by that. I was expecting to need an 850 or maybe even 1,000-watt power supply.
Yeah,
But
which with the extra overage,
yeah,
I'm actually surprised it's that low too.
yeah. I mean, I've always been told rule of thumb you want 10% overage.
Hmm.
So 10% would be like 650. And I could have got a 650 or a 700-watt power supply, but kind of looking around at like reputable brands and things with like, potential sales or deals at the time, I went with an EVGA fully modular gold, 80 plus gold power supply.
Fully modular is always fun.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Makes
It's actually,
life a lot easier.
yes, this is actually my first fully modular power supply. My last one was semi-modular. Um, the motherboard, GPU and CPU were hardwired, and then everything else was optional. So this is my first fully modular power supply, and I don't think I'll ever buy, at least for anything that isn't like just a random like build, maybe like
Mhm.
entertainment center or something. I don't think I'll ever use anything that's not fully modular ever again. It was so nice to route my cables the other way, to
Yeah.
to route them from the board back to the power supply. That was much easier. And I also don't think I'm ever not using a full tower case ever again. This thing is fucking ginormous, but there's so much room to work in it. I was like, fuck it. I'm like spending a shitload of money. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna like cut any corners. I've got to stay within my budget, but I'm not gonna cut corners. I'm gonna make what I feel like are smart decisions. Instead of cheaping out on something here or there, I'm gonna go for a really good, well-rounded build. It's good to build a PC. It's the first time I built a PC in 5 years, and the last time I built a PC, like, you know, well, the first time I've really done anything major in 5 years. I've taken, stuff down and cleaned it or replaced pieces that broke or whatever, but, you know, it's good. It's good to do that. It's good to nerd out. But that's enough about that. I mean, really, that could be my whole like, what's Jared been up to? Building a fucking computer. And I push forward on it too because all this tariff shit, and I'm not trying to take us into politics right now. Like it just
For
eternally
once.
makes me sad. Yeah, but I was like, now's the time. Like everything's in stock right now. We haven't hit the point. Like everything I was looking at least was in stock. We've not hit the point where the that huge delay um from the 4 to 6 week lead time on shipping that hasn't hit yet. Like if I'm gonna do it, now's the time. And so I just pulled the trigger
I mean,
and
it's
did it.
hard not to be political in today's world because everything is politics.
Right, right. So yeah, but let's not do that. Let's not be sad about that any more than we might already be.
Yeah,
Let's go.
personally, instead of doom scrolling whenever I'm on break, I've been trying to find some mobile games to play.
Hell yeah! Excellent segue that I'm gonna call out and ruin. Let's go talk about the games that we played. What games have you played, Rage?
So I found, well, I've been playing about 4 or 5 of them, and I'm only going to talk about 2 this week,
Mm-hmm.
and probably 2 or 3 next week. Mostly because I cycle through them, but also you know, I'm a cheapskate, so I'll get the unlock with my Google opinion on rewards to turn off the fucking ads and play the hell out of that until I get bored, then play something else.
Yeah.
So the first one is mob control, which if you look at the screenshots of this, it's like, oh, this is going to end up being a match 3 game because this is one of those that you've seen every single fucking ad for a mobile game where it's person in some sort of lane or level sending mobs, in this case, monsters, creatures, whatever, through the level, and as it passes through certain gates that has multipliers on them, it multiplies that mob, and and it's essentially a reverse tug of war, I guess would be the proper term, where you have to get to the other end while there's a player on the other side, either usually AI, but occasionally in this game it's a live player.
Yeah.
Uh, tries to do the same to you, and 99.99% of times you see this ad, you click on it, you download the game, it's a fucking match 3 game. This is that 0.00001 where it's actually the game,
Yeah.
And it's pretty good for a quick pick up and play. It's not one that I could recommend for long sessions, although they try to push that. So, first thing I did was I found out how much it would be to disable the mandatory ads, because this is a mobile game, so even if you disable the ads, there's going to still be the option for them, right?
Right.
And it's basically it's buy anything in the store, and it puts you basically as a premium user, so you don't have the mandatory ads. Okay, great. Here, have $1, right?
Yeah.
And it's sort of like Castle Crashers and a lot of these other games where you build up a base and then you go attack other bases and loot them. They attack you, blah blah blah, and you get to set up defenses to protect yourself while you're away. And then when you come back, you can come back and beat the ever living hell out of them. It's like I said, it's not a bad game. They have constantly rotating modes that they basically try to incentivize you to play for long periods of time, but the game is not deep enough for that. At least not for me, There's like one mode where you'll be matched up against another person, and depending on if you generate more points in matches versus them, you win the duel. And if you win so many duels, you go up a rank in this thing. And it's just it doesn't hold my interest that long for me.
Yeah.
It does seem like it's fairly well balanced. You're able to swap out the bobs that you get, and you start off with just the normies, right?
Yeah.
And then you get things like ninjas, knights, cavemen, chickens, and they seem fairly well balanced around one another, where like ninjas are faster than knights, but knights are stronger. So it unlocks a little bit of different strategies. The different tanks that you could get to unleash the mobs seem fairly well balanced to one another, where it doesn't feel like there's one that's directly a boost compared to the others, because one will. Well, I should take that back. There's like going from the single to the double. It's obviously a power up, but going from like the lucky shot, which has a general mobs per second it'll fire, but it will sometimes fire 1, sometimes fire 3, sometimes fire 2, sometimes fire 5. Versus the shotgun, which is always the same amount, but it's in bursts. Versus like the single shot, which is it's sending out that just a single stream. Everything feels fairly well balanced against one another, where as you unlock or do things, it doesn't feel like it directly negates all the other unlocks. And they encourage you to play different things with different modes, unlocking and different rotations and daily quests and that sort of thing. So it's definitely not bad for a pick up and play. There's always something going on. There's always some sort of adventures going on, that sort of thing. The one thing that does annoy me is that, even though I'm a premium user, oh boy, they'll try to get you to spend more money, right?
Right.
Because there's the premium battle pass. It's like $7 or $8. There's every so often they'll have endless loot where the first few hits are free, and then give us $1 and we'll give you some more hits of loot. When truth be told, you don't really need it, you know?
Yeah.
It feels like it's more to try to get people that are impatient. So, right.
Yeah. Try to get people who are impatient or who, want to,
Hey, here, have another dollar, right?
right?
But yeah, I would say it's worth a look for a quick time waster, but kind of wish that it was a little bit more depth because most of the time it's becomes very apparent if a match is going to be won or lost.
Yeah.
Even when it's the live game, which I'm not 100% sure if I believe them on that. It's been, just kind of almost face rollish. Although I have had a couple of those that felt like, this is actually feels like it's a real person because they're trying to outsmart me. You know?
Yeah.
Like one actually was a fairly close match, but I was able to send enough of my guys around his army that he was building up to break down his wall and cause him to lose before he was able to overwhelm my defenses. So, it's moments like that, this game really excels, but they're so few and far in between.
Right.
So, do you want to talk about one of your games?
I can. They're all kind of a bundle. Um, and I'm probably going to talk about them interchangeably to talk about compare and contrast some differences and some
All
similarities.
right. Well, I can talk
So
about
why
my
don't
other
you go
one real
ahead?
quick, and then
Yeah.
probably grab a little bit of a drink while you rattle away, right?
Yep.
So my other one is Good Pizza, Great Pizza, another mobile game, right?
Of course.
But this one, instead of having, I think there is an option to disable ads. This one is like, if you want to watch an ad, here we'll give you some stuff, but you don't really have to. You can just skip it. Which, fucking respect, you know?
Yeah.
So this one is, I guess, cozy business management would be the proper term for it. You are a owner of a pizzeria who every day people come in and you have to make pizzas for them, you know? But it's not the modern style of rush, rush, rush. There is, a incentive to go quickly because, if you take too much time, you lose out on tips. But overall, it's kind of more chill than I was expecting it to be. Kind of almost zen-ish. And the entire world is just really, really obsessed with pizza for whatever reason. And this is another game that has like a lot of stuff going on all the time. There's right now a Mother's Day event going on. When I started playing, there was like a harvest event with peaches for whatever reason. And it's just a very chill game. And they have another game that's in the same universe. Oh,
Mhm.
and you'll love it. There's like a homeless guy that pops up every so often, and I keep thinking of him like Graham the Hobo. That's
Yay.
that asked for a pizza, and you have the option to give him one or not, and I'm not sure if it actually does anything if you give them a pizza. I give them one anyway, because right.
Yeah.
But they have a coffee game that's like in the same like universe where, or yeah, like same general art style, and it's just like fired up, play a level on my break, and just kind of relax.
Yeah.
It's nothing too demanding. It reminds me of some of the Flash pizza games back in the day where you're laying down all the sauce, all the cheese. You can get uh, power ups that will allow you to have the pizza's automatically cut for you at the end of cooking, or you could optional watch an ad to speed up your pizza oven, but you don't really need it, and they don't try to force it on you.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, is always nice to see a mobile game that has ads that it doesn't feel like I have to get out the wallet.
Yeah. I've got some mobile games that I'm not going to talk about today, but I might talk about in a
Mhm.
week or two. And that's the thing. That's a big thing. So, them being willing and able to be cool about their ads instead of spamming the shit out of you.
So yeah, good pizza, great pizza, excellent mobile game.
Good. Good to hear. Um okay. So, my turn.
If you must,
All right.
I'm going to go
So,
top off my water bottle.
okay. So I have got 3 games that are all part of like a specific kind of niche, which is World War II historical naval games. I don't know what kind of possessed me to want to play a World War II historical naval game. Um, but I found myself saying, I'd like to do some kind of strategy, naval battle strategy. There are some parts of dreadnoughts, Ultimate Admiral dreadnoughts that I like, and some parts that I don't. And the shipbuilding and testing component of that is way more fun than trying to do their sort of fleet management, combat kind of campaign thingy that you can do. And so I was looking on Steam and I saw Victory at Sea Pacific. And then when I looked on the store page, it's like, oh, you already own this game. So I guess I picked that up in a bundle at some point. And so I started playing that, which ultimately led me to wanting to play a different game that's more modern within the genre, which led me to War on the Sea. And then I discovered that the people who made Victory at Sea Pacific more recently released Victory at Sea Atlantic. So these 3 games are very similar in the basic gist of how they play. Of course, there are some historical battles that are present in all of them, which you can play out, and either try to avert a loss or improve upon a victory, or there's some kind of what if scenarios. Um, like the Battle of Leyte Gulf, or um, the what's it called? The Clash Titans Clash on the High Seas, where at the beginning of World War II, where that British, what were considered like the strongest British capital ships went up against the new German ships, and they got their asses kicked by the German pocket battleships, and that kind of thing. And then they all have some kind of historical campaign. Victory at Sea Pacific and War on the Sea are centered on the Pacific theater of World War II, whereas Victory at Sea Atlantic is centered on the Atlantic theater of World War II. But otherwise, there is some similar aspects here. There's a map of the region, during which you have control over various fleets and the ability to produce new ships. And there's different systems that each game uses, but it's not just straight up cash. You have war bonds, or you have requisition points that you can spend as you see fit, and you start each campaign with a certain amount of vessels based on the time period that you're starting at, and a few other options that you pick. And you are looking to win World War II. They are all of the campaigns except for War on the Sea, which allows you to play as either the Japanese or the Americans, are all played from the Allies' perspective. So you have a primary nation that you're in charge of their vessels, and then other vessels can be requested or will show up in theater. And if they are in battle, you get to control them, but you can't build them. And there's the overmap where you're moving these things around. You are requisitioning or building vessels, forming fleets. You have to go, and it gets pretty granular. You have to do reconnaissance, for example. While radar exists at this point in time, not every ship has radar, and even the ships that do, it's not as good as modern day radar. So you can use that to some advantage, but for the most part, you're sending out recon flights or relying on information relayed to you by shipping vessels and whatnot. So you have to go in your specific theater, doing recon to find enemy vessels and sinking them. And there are some kind of overworld objectives, War on the Sea and Victory at Sea Pacific. Since you're trying to win in the Pacific theater, there are things like, defend Midway, take over specific island chains, and ultimately win the war. And Victory at Sea Atlantic starts in 1940, and you are prepping for various World War II Atlantic theater campaigns. D-Day being sort of the one that's looming on the horizon, preparing the naval invasion and blockade for D-Day. That is set up pretty early. I'm not sure actually in the real world when the plans for the D-Day invasion started, but that was in 1943. When was D-Day? 44? Doing a little history. 1944, June 6th, 1944, was the D-Day landing. So it's already kind of prepping you for that. But that's kind of where the similarities end for the most part, because then the games go in kind of drastically different directions. And there's some things I like about the Victory at Sea games better, and there's some things I like about War on the Sea, and I wish there was a combination of the two of them. So War on the Sea is attempting to be, I think, more historically accurate from a ship-to-ship engagement point, or engagement standpoint. There is a lot more granular control you have over each of your vessels, including specific damage control measures. And the way that the ships take damage, they don't have health bars per se. I mean, you can do enough damage to a ship via fires and whatnot to render it combat inoperable, which counts as it being killed. But in order to sink a ship, you've got to sink a ship. You either have to hit it with torpedoes and cause massive flooding, or the same thing with guns, or cause main battery explosions or something like that, which rips a ship apart. Your ships can take considerable punishment. Battleships and even aircraft carriers and larger cruisers could survive multiple torpedo hits, outstanding amounts of punishment. There are tons of records of ships being shelled continuously, large battleships, for example, being shelled continuously for hours and hours and hours and surviving the battle, because despite the fact that sort of the top deck is completely destroyed, the shelling in question was ineffective at actually making the ship inoperable, and so it was able to be retreated from the theater, the engagement eventually, and survive. And War on the Sea is trying to do that, I think, a lot more sort of granularly and effectively than either of the two Victory at Sea games. They tend to rely more on your ships having health bars, and so ships can get hit, can be withered down, because there is at the very least a minimal amount of damage that gets done. And so ships tend to get destroyed in engagements fairly quickly. Which means that you're always better off spamming fleets of destroyers and light cruisers than you are building large capital ships, battleships or battle cruisers. Aircraft carriers are special, and I'll talk about aircraft in a little
Yes,
bit.
they're
And how
very special.
they are, and how they're handled across all three games. But War on the Sea is trying to be much more either historically accurate or like deep mechanically on the individual engagement stage, and it sacrifices that granularity on sort of the campaign management, the theater management. It's very simplified. You're just trying to successfully transport troops to the various Japanese held islands in order to take them over. There are just simply you click for naval bombardment of a location or to perform an airstrike. And the map is fiddly at best. I wouldn't say it's so bad that it feels like a secondary concern to the ship-to-ship combat, but it definitely was a noticeably lower priority. And so you spend up faffing about a lot on that map screen. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, you're primarily using recon flights to find enemy ships, because even ships of the era with radar was not as powerful or accurate. It couldn't be used quite as effectively. But the map screen on War on the Sea, trying to find enemies is next to fucking impossible. The best thing at finding enemies are your naval bases, because they are the only thing that will automatically launch recon flights and then pin sort of recon squadrons to following convoys until they get out of range. And so you have to have quick reaction forces around all of your bases, and then just kind of hope for the best with an aircraft carrier on patrol and submarines on patrol. But it's wonky at best. Now, submarine combat is very important to all three of these games, and they do handle them about the same. War on the Sea has got a few extra bits to the submarine combat in terms of what you can do. You can much more granularly control your submarine's depth, but otherwise, you're doing the same thing. You're probably doing a kind of a wolf pack tactic where you've got 2 or 3 submarines converging on a convoy from opposite directions and firing a spread of torpedoes and then slinking away. And just kind of observing what happens and then striking again later if you need to. Submarine warfare is very, very engaging. I've watched a ton of documentaries about, World War II and naval combat and submarine tactics, but playing these games and suddenly it being it drags you into a combat encounter and you're just there's nothing here, and then it hits you, oh shit, it's a submarine. And in the real world, you wouldn't even get a notification that you were being dragged into combat. It's just suddenly one of your ships would explode because it got hit with a torpedo. So subs are the bane of my existence and terrifying, but they're so fun when you can ambush convoys with them, which is nearly impossible in War on the Sea because the fucking map is impossible to use. Whereas both of the Victory at Sea games, there is development in Atlantic since it's newer, but both of them have got health bar systems for their ships. While there are some systems that can be damaged, like rudders or fire control systems, that is much less important to manage than just hoping that you don't get hit. And so, because there's health bars and everything, as far as I can tell, seems to do at least a minimal amount of damage, you're better off spamming smaller ships than the larger ones. It's good to have one large capital ship in a fleet, so that you can pick off enemy ships as they close, because you do still have that range advantage from the larger guns. But 2 or 3 light cruisers can easily intercept and destroy a single battleship and not take any losses, just because the volume of fire is superior. And it's a health bar system, so even though the lighter shells would do less damage, or maybe no damage IRL, because it's a health bar system, you can kind of get away with it. And it does result in these hilarious encounters, too, where that you can kind of exploit this if you wind up in a bad spot to use recon float planes with depth charges and manually drop them on battleships and do enough damage to force them to withdraw. Whereas that would never in a million years happen, I don't think. I mean, maybe like a 1 in a million lucky shot, but repeatedly I have been like pounced on and I'm out of ammo because I've been shelling harbors and, I have one cruiser with some float planes. I'm like, fuck it, let's go. And I'll just send them in one at a time, manually dropping depth charges on a battleship until its guns get destroyed and it retreats. But where the two Victory 8C games succeed are their maps are way better. There's way more information. And I think the way to think of it maybe is that the Victory 8C games are more like grand strategy type games where it's about managing larger fleets, multiple objectives at the same time, managing more complex economies, especially Victory 8C Atlantic. There's an entire research system. You have to have food, war materials, and soldiers, like a population of growing soldiers, in order to, build vessels, build aircraft, build all the facilities that you need to, monitor the Atlantic Ocean and protect your shipping coming from America. Like, especially in the early game as the British, like, you get a decent amount of starting fleets, but you want to assign almost all of them to convoy protection in the Atlantic Ocean between the United States and the United Kingdom. But so there's just a lot more in the overworld, and then doing things like shelling harbors, like you actually enter into a combat encounter with the harbor. And this is the one instance where if you do not have a carrier, you absolutely don't want to use anything except a battleship, because harbor guns are fucking scary, and they will light up your cruisers and your destroyers on their way in to bombard the shore. So you send in a battleship, you manually target each of the large shore guns, and then you can kind of just let the auto attack system take over to shell the harbor into oblivion. But they're all good. They're all good. Victory at Sea Pacific suffers from its age. Victory at Sea Atlantic, even though technically it's released, I don't think it's listed as an early access game. I guess I could check that really quick. But it feels like an early access game. Let's see. Let me look here real quick. Yeah, it's not listed as early access, but it really feels like an early access game.
Oh boy, those reviews.
Oh, interesting. Where did all the negative reviews come from?
Well, there's 13 of them.
Yeah. Posted April 17th. So this was April 29th. People are calling out a lot of bugs. I haven't noticed any bugs, although there have been several patches recently since I bought it, so maybe they've been on, squashing bugs. That people are complaining about the AI. Yes, like I said, it's very easy to exploit, like if you get in a bad situation, to exploit the AI, because they don't seem to do a good job at targeting planes. And there are times when they seem to get confused and just sail in circles, although maybe I damaged their ships and I didn't realize it. But that makes ships very vulnerable to submarines. But yeah, AI bugs. The music's, there's one song. Just mute the just turn the music off after 30 minutes or so. There's one song, it's not that good. But overall, I like playing Atlantic the most. Pacific is good, but it just suffers from being old. Like, it just, it's dated. And then, yeah, War on the Sea has got by far the best. Like, if I want to do just like a quick, quote-unquote, quick battle, I'll fire up War on the Sea and do a custom battle or one of the historical battles. But I like all three of them in this weird sort of like niche genre that kind of popped up for me almost out of nowhere. So there you go. 3 games, one sort of itch to scratch. I think they're all good. There's a pretty big commodity community for both Victory at Sea Pacific and War on the Sea. Providing like custom campaigns and additional vessels and gameplay tweaks and stuff. Victory at Sea Atlantic is starting to get some mod support, but most of what are in there now are like creation tools, and then like essentially like cheat mods that like unlock everything. And I mean, I'm guessing there's ways that you could do that anyways, but it's like download this and run it to unlock everything for your campaign. So yeah, that's my weird rabbit hole I've been down the last couple of weeks in terms of like a weirdly specific gaming thing.
Well,
So
fun.
yeah. So on to the news. Our first news topic of the night. World of Warcraft is getting a one-button option that will automatically cast the ideal next spell, but it comes at a cost. So this is an accessibility feature. And you hear World of Warcraft is getting a one-button option to cast, next to cast spells for accessibility. Great. Perfect. No notes. But then they threw in a part 2, which is that if you use the accessibility feature, it adds 0.2 seconds to the global cast time.
Yeah, the article goes way on about mods, about accessibility, but never brings up exactly what the penalty is. And I had to go to Reddit that basically had notes from the interview to find exactly how long this is. So, World of Warcraft's GCD, Global Cooldown Timer, is 1.5 seconds. This adds 0.2. So, if you're using one button mode, and we should highlight that this is essentially stage 2 of an accessibility feature that's coming up. Stage 1, it's using some sort of algorithm. I hesitate to say AI these days because AI is kind of a loaded term. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So it uses some sort of algorithm or some sort of targeting thing that it will highlight what the game thinks the next spell that you should be casting is. So it will highlight on your hotbar for you to press the button or mouse the button or whatever. Then stage 2 is one button mode, which that has the CD the GCD penalty on it. Which 0.2 seconds, that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's bringing the global cooldown from 1.5 to 1.7. So we did the math on it, 7.5, so 8 casts, you've missed an entire spell. For soloing, for casual stuff, I would say even possibly low level raids, it's not going to make that big a difference. But that's going to really hurt if you get into PvP, if you want to get into even moderate level raiding or any competitive stuff that World of Warcraft has these days, which I may not know about.
Yeah. And that's the part that really bothers me. Like, I fucking hate accessibility features that come with caveats. Like, caveats like this. Like, sometimes, like, you can only do so much. So it's like, well, there's this accessibility feature that helps with this, that, and the other thing, but it just doesn't help tackle this problem. There's nothing we can do about that. We promise we tried, hearts and kissy faces. But this is an intentional design choice to make someone who is already potentially probably really struggling to play the game because they have, all matter of disabilities, any kind of like mobility limitations or potentially like brain processing delays or something like that makes it like much more difficult for them to play. They chose to make their experience slightly worse than it otherwise would have been using this accessibility feature. And like I said, or like you said, like I said before we were recording, that 0.2 seconds probably doesn't matter most of the time to most of the players. But that I don't think that is a good enough excuse to build in these artificial limitations into the system.
I know why it's there. It's that Blizzard is absolute dog shit about designing balance in World of Warcraft. and they don't want to accidentally make the one button mode, the best way to play a particular class.
Yeah. And I think that's fine to worry about that, but you should just do it anyways. That's the thing. You should just do it anyways. And number one, you might learn how to do things better anyways. Like that experience, like of people like doing this is like, okay, well, how could we improve the class without making this accessibility feature worse? But then also, this algorithm will make more mistakes over time than a good player would. Like there might be occasions where it makes the right choice where a player wouldn't, and I suppose that's fair. But I think in the aggregate, it will make more mistakes than not. And I think that in and of itself is enough to be like, this is the true limitations of this technology. This is the best that we can do. Sometimes your experience will be a little bit worse because it's going to make a mistake. And I think that should be enough. Like this really bothers me. Like I talk about accessibility features like a decent amount, both with people IRL. I work with a population of people who, enough of them are disabled and have a hard time getting into games that like it makes me upset. But then also like I pay attention to gaming accessibility because a couple of gaming, YouTubers and journalists and things that I follow also cover accessibility stuff. I've talked about her before, Laura Kate Dale, who is on the Podquisition, which is the Jim Sterling or the James Stephanie Sterling podcast. But Laura does this show called Accessibility, and it's both on a YouTube series and released audio only as a podcast. And that, I think because of that, I don't think she's the only person to ever cover it, of course. But she was the most high profile person to start covering it, which has spawned off like a huge community and growing, well, relatively speaking, a huge community and growing discussions around these things and how accessibility features can make games better for people who aren't what you would think of as classically disabled, people with physical disabilities who can't use, a hand or an arm or something like that. Because disability covers a wider array of stuff than just your inability to use a body part. And so that's why I'm so frustrated about it, because it's just unnecessary. It feels unnecessarily. I don't know if cruel is too strong a word, right? I don't want to seem like I'm being hyperbolic, but it feels mean. At the very least, it feels mean in a way that it doesn't have to be.
See, I'm not going out on the limb and saying mean. I'm saying that they're just incompetent.
Yeah.
Why attribute malice to just incompetence when incompetence fits the bill just as well?
Yeah.
Because I remember when I played World of Warcraft that they would accidentally make a class stupid overpowered because they didn't think of interaction between a couple of spells. I know it's been, oh god, has it really been like 15 years since I played World of Warcraft? But I don't expect Blizzard to be better at it. As a matter of fact, I expect them to be worse. So them hedging their bets on a one button mode, yeah, that sounds about like a Blizzard move. I'm not mad. I'm more just like that seems like par for the course for them.
Yeah. I fully admit that this is potentially some of like my own like bias or my own like proclivities showing through. Like, still, it doesn't have to be there. They didn't have to put that in.
And that's the thing, is that they can't think of a better way to prevent their systems from being the best way to play a game or play a particular class. So, all right.
Yeah. I forget his name. He's a YouTuber, and he worked at Blizzard for a long time, and he's the developer of Heartbound. I cannot remember his name, though. But he's got a thing I've seen him say a couple of times, which is like, I encourage game developers that whenever you see something that like sort of like a meta has formed around, or, it's in some capacity broken something else, don't your first option, your go-to should not be to just nerf the thing that everybody is using. You really would benefit from taking time to understand why it's that way. Are there other systems in your game that are broken or otherwise diminished that you should, instead of, diminishing this one thing, bump up some others? And it feels like game devs are so quick to just kill the good thing that they don't try to think like, well, why does everybody like this? It's such a good thing. And absolutely, mistakes can be made.
Well,
You can
well,
accidentally make something overpowered.
part of that might just be they don't have the time to try to understand it because the suits are there. It's like, uh, we gotta get this content going, gotta get
Yeah,
the DLC going, gotta get the microtransactions going. I'm not going to say every game's like that, but I'm leaning towards the AAA's and the other big games being they don't have time to understand it, so they have to take the hammer.
yeah. I could buy that easily. I could easily buy that.
Well, stop buying microtransactions. Damn it.
Dog. It's been a hot minute since I've been bought any microtransactions at all. I don't buy them very often, but every once in a while I get got on a cosmetic or something. But it's been a while.
I mean, for me, it's technically it was buying a couple cheap ass things just so that I get rid of ads.
Right.
But is it even my money if I'm getting a quarter to answer a question and then making up an answer because they're asking Google's asking me about stopping at Exxon when I drove past Exxon.
Right.
Why would I go to Exxon if I have fuel points somewhere else that knocks 70 cents off a gallon?
You're right. You're 100% correct.
Yeah. I totally stopped there and made a purchase. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it totally wasn't because the light was red at the intersection. So shall we get on with another topic, or do you want to complain about Blizzard some more?
No, I'm good complaining about Blizzard for now. Let's go complain about Microsoft. Microsoft reportedly to lay off 3% or 6,800 of its total employees.
But it's only 3%.
Yep. Only 3%.
Now this
That
is
line's got to
across
go up, dog.
all its divisions, so it's not just the video game divisions. It sounds like it's everything. And according to this, it's and where was that? That the layoffs are part of organizational changes necessary to best position the company for success in a dynamic marketplace, also known as Trump has fucked up the economy. We need to cut waste.
Corporate bullshit.
Mhm.
Because they could just come out and say that, but no, the line has to go up, and the only
Yep.
way to make the line go up, given the roller coaster economy, is to just cut expenses and increase revenue streams.
Boy, I was planning on trying to invest this year, but not in this economy. I know,
Yeah,
yes, I could still make money, but it doesn't feel like it's worth it. It's best to
yeah,
just leave everything in a savings account.
yep. I mean, technically you could think about trying to start a new business as investing in something. Gambling, starting new businesses are basically gambling. What is it like? It's a high percentage of small businesses fail. Is it like 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5?
Well, it also depends on the industry.
True.
I mean, the restaurant industry, it's like, it's like walking over dead bodies. Uh, it's I can't think of a World War One movie now, but it's like, okay, going over the top in the trenches, hoping that somebody makes it to the other side, right?
Yeah. Let's see. 20% of all businesses fail within the first year. 50% fail within 4 years, according to this USA Today article that was at the top of the search. And then there's caveats like this varies from industry to to other factors.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it also depends on what you define as success. I feel pretty successful so far with my small business endeavors. It's only been 2 weeks, but I'm feeling pretty good so far.
Mm-hmm. But hey, that line, it's not going up.
Right.
You're gonna have to make some cuts. Fire a couple people.
I mean, I'm the only
Sorry, kid.
person.
No. You hire and fire your kid.
Right. Just kick him out of the house. That's it. I'm firing you. I need to decrease my expenditures. Go live with your grandparents.
Yeah, I'm sure your grandparents would love that. Here,
They
have them for full indoctrination.
they they probably would love it. For real, for real. So this is not their biggest layoff in recent history. January 2023, this article says around 10,000 staff were laid off. But still, I mean, this is 2/3 of that.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's still plenty of time to have another one this year.
Right. There's a line a little bit further down in the article that says Xbox's content and service revenues was up 8% over the same period. So whatever Microsoft's motivation is for laying off thousands of its employees, it can't be to turn around struggling fortunes because they're making more money.
I must go up.
Line must go up.
Go up more.
But yeah, just fuck a whole bunch of people. Fuck Microsoft. Fuck Trump. Fuck our current political climate. There's been a fucking air war between India and Pakistan this past week.
Yeah, and
what
that
the
got no
fuck,
news
man?
coverage at all because there was the whole plane debacle, right?
Another plane debacle, but yes.
Although, let's be honest, Saudi Arabia knows how to get them.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Do you want to go into this or should I?
You can. You go ahead.
Okay, so Saudi Arabia is playing knowing their base. They didn't give them a plane. They didn't give them a flying palace. No, they created a fucking mobile McDonald's.
Mm-hmm. God,
So
we live in the weirdest, craziest, shittiest timeline.
I'm convinced that somebody at the Onion has a magic typewriter that they don't know about. So they're writing articles, and then it's just becoming reality.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd believe it. But all right,
I mean, it makes more sense in our current timeline.
Yeah.
Although mobile McDonald's.
Yeah.
Oh.
Nothing I've ever wanted ever. McDonald's is okay, right? A lot of McDonald's stuff is okay. It is a standard. I know what I'm going to get no matter where I'm at, pretty much anywhere. But never once have I went, you know what? I'd love to be able to call up a McDonald's to come over here to me. Never in a million years have I wanted that. But yeah, let's go talk about Blizzard again in some kind of context. Blizzard's Overwatch team just unionized. And quote, what I want to protect most here is the people. A wall-to-wall union of Blizzard Team 4 includes nearly 200 developers, which is good.
It's nice to have some actually good news.
Yeah, one of the only good things to come out of all of this stuff is unions are growing right now across multiple industries, at least the United States. I can't speak to other places in the world where I'm not paying attention to the economic data, but union membership is on the rise the last couple of years, um, across the board in the United States. I mean, it's not crazy big numbers. It's not as big as I'd like to see, but it is moving in the right direction. So, let's see. Where does it? I had it, and then I accidentally closed the page and I lost it. Here we go. Okay. So, game developers behind Activision's Blizzard hit franchise Overwatch have joined the Communications Workers of America, becoming the latest group of video game workers at Microsoft-owned studios to form a wall-to-wall union.
Yeah,
This
which honestly, it seems like a really good idea at this point to protect yourself from these blanket layoffs.
extremely good idea. Power in numbers, people. Power in numbers. But
Because even if you're at will, if you're employed in an at will state, the union will protect your ass for the most part.
which, if you live in the United States, most states are at will states. There's only my brain wants to say 2 states that are not at will states. I'm googling. No, there's only one. Montana. So, yeah. There you go. 49 of the 50 US states are at will. And if you don't know what that is, that means you can be fired at any point in time, with no sort of justification. You can't be fired. Technically, you can't be fired in certain ways that breaks the law, like if it is, discrimination or, retaliation for something that is supposed to be protected. But, like, fuck you, right? There's no, if they want to fire you for those things, they'll just say it's something different, and it's nearly impossible to prove unless you've got, like, have done some really good evidence collecting yourself. But even then, you've got to get a lawyer and take him to court, and there's no guarantees. Like, it's a nightmare. I think there are a few states that have positions or sectors that are not at will. I feel like California, if you work for the state government, you are not considered an at will employee. In New York, maybe. Like, I feel like I've read about this before, and that's why my brain told me there were 2, but it was only one state. Like, but yeah. Anyways, don't come to America. If you don't live in America already, don't come here. And if you do live here, why? I mean, I'm in that blanket. I ask myself why I live here every day, but why? Go to a better country. Go to fucking Germany. Germany's a cool country now. Or China. Fucking go to China.
Yeah, sorry, I'm reading something that might be a news article to add.
What? What are you reading?
You ready for some more dumb shit?
No, but lay it on me.
Well, I'm trying to find a source. RocketWorks CEO alleges Unity is threatening to revoke the studio's license over apparent personal license usage. So, the RocketWorks is the studio behind DayZ.
Okay.
It's rock, paper, shotgun, so. Oh, what the hell, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I saw this pop up on my front page on Reddit just now. I guess they updated their algorithm or whatever.
See, DayZ creator Dean Hall is alleging that Unity are threatening to revoke all licenses for workers at his current studio, RocketWorks, the team behind Icarus. Ooh, I like Icarus. I've been playing Icarus. It's one of the games that I will talk about in the future. Developers made this claim in a lengthy post on Reddit saying that Unity are doing based on bogus data about private versus public licenses. Hall shared what he claims is an email from Unity dated May 9th, where they explained that the Unity compliance team has flagged RocketWorks' account as, according to their data, the developer currently has users using Unity personal licenses when they should under the umbrella of your Unity Pro subscription. Okay, okay.
Looks like it's people working on personal stuff, but it's not related to RocketWorks projects. It's their own, yeah, like personal little pet projects, toying around with a Unity personal license.
Yep, and then the other one is says that it's a contractor that was hired to do some work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Unity. It's been a while since you popped up, and it's usually ever dumb shit, huh?
Yeah, I'm actually going. Just pulled up onto my Steam, the Steam page for Icarus, seeing if people are saying anything in the discussions about it. Probably not, but
I mean, I just saw this pop up, but this looks like it's been going on for a few days.
uh, yeah, nobody's posted about it on the discussion page. There's no official message from the developer, which I guess makes sense. At the moment, it's not affecting the game. It doesn't seem like, which sucks. Icarus is good. It's a lot of fun. I would hate to see that game like get fucking bounced because some dumb shit.
Yeah, well, one of the top comments on the Reddit thread has it to a T. Unity is trying desperately to kill their market share because didn't Godot see a huge spike on the last bout of Unity shenanigans?
That I don't know. I don't fully remember what happened with the last spat. I know a bunch of devs
What
switched away from them
wasn't
after they
that
tried to pull some dumb
wasn't
shit.
that them wanting like some absurd market or profit sharing?
Yeah, it was like perpetual royalties or something. Like it was something crazy.
Looks like Stationeers is another one that is under the gun as well. Well, that's being developed by RocketWorks, so that makes sense. But Stationeers is a game I wanted to get into at one point. It's another one of the kind of just random building games.
Yeah,
There's so many of them, huh?
let me look this
Stationeers is
up.
about building a space station with all the systems contained within.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've got this on my wish list.
Yeah, there was another one that was like a closer to space engineers in art style that is about the same concept.
Yeah,
And I'm sure that there's plenty of other ones, but damn.
Rocketworks has got 3 games: Icarus,
Mm-hmm.
Stationeers, and Out of Ammo, a VR game, and it's got like a DLC or something.
Meanwhile, I'm going to cost you some money here.
Oh god.
Rocket. I don't know where you're seeing just 3 games because all upcoming releases, Art of Rail.
I'm on the wrong
Uh,
on the
well,
wrong
there,
tab.
there's new releases, top sellers, but upcoming has Art of Rail that looks like it's right up your alley.
Ooh. It's a very cute art style too. I like the stylized
hmm
nature.
Yeah,
Like for stuff like Sims, like I appreciate a good realistic art style, but there's so many of those. It's actually
hmm
nice to see something a little stylized, a little cartoony.
yeah, I would say uh, low poly is not the proper term, but it feels like it's more set in like yeah late 2000s art style. It's more
Yeah.
simplistic art style. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely simplified.
Simplified, and it doesn't feel like it has to be cutting edge.
Well, I'll put that on my wish list.
You're welcome.
Ooh. Full multiplayer with up to 16 other players, either cooperatively or competitively.
All right.
I'm interested in that.
You're
But
welcome.
that was a diversion, a news topic diversion.
Yeah, I saw that pop up and just like, oh, Unity, why?
Yeah. So let's move on to our last topic of the night. I'm starting to lose steam, so let's get through it. I don't know if this will be a big one.
Or just restart it.
Right. I see what you did there. Okay. Our final news topic of the night. Even Starfield's community patch modders are growing, quote, disenchanted with the sci-fi RPG.
I saw this
Um,
pop up and I had to throw it in.
yeah,
It's our new whipping boy.
Starfield, see our Game Club episode about that for
I
more
just want to know
details.
where all the development time went. You know,
Yeah, jerking off Todd Howard, probably.
has there been
There's
like some sort of big expose, behind the scenes? Because
I'm
we talked about the
sure
possibility of it, but
there's
because
an
there has to be like there had to been like a major have to go back to code at some point.
I think they just wasted a lot of fucking time. So the YouTuber that I've talked about who has done the 8-hour Morrowind and then 12-hour Oblivion and 20-hour Skyrim videos, among other things, but those are the ones that I have kind of gravitated to over the last few years and have watched them all a couple of times. I mean, it's a Patrician TV. If anybody is listening who wants to go see them, he did an 8-hour deep dive on Starfield last year, like last summer. I want to say maybe it was earlier than that, but um, the thing that he kept coming back to was they did not have a central design document. And that's like been confirmed. Like that's not speculation. There are interviews that he points to and articles where he points out that they talk about not having a central design document because they felt that that was like they were trying to do something different and they felt that would slow them down and hamper creative workflows. But
Yeah, but then
instead,
you get where the outpost management has nothing to do with anything else.
yes, but instead, by all reports, there was a huge lack of coordination. And so devs were working on stuff for months and months at a time that ultimately was not was not used or utilized. And like, sure, shit gets cut sometimes. That's fine. Like that happens. It's part of the process. But there was so much stuff that was just haphazard and unfinished and time wasted. Um, you know, like he report like repeatedly talks about this during the video where he talks about problems and issues, and it's like it's almost like this problem could have been mitigated with a document of some kind that was central and talked about design philosophies for the game. Another big issue that he pointed out, and again is mentioned in multiple interviews and multiple articles and things like that, is that Todd Howard like really like stood in the way of this game a lot because it was his baby, and the game studio, Bethesda isn't a ragtag game studio of like 25 or 30 people anymore where everybody can easily communicate with one another. They've got hundreds of employees, like thousands kind of reaching out into the satellite of contractors and other, devs now that they're owned by Microsoft and all that jazz. Like, so there's multiple documents to talk about how that Todd Howard would want to be personally involved in stuff, and it would like eat into time, like dev time, because he's only one man and he can only go and see and do so many things at a time. There's other stuff, I'm sure, but those are a couple of points that he points out as like these are things that are probably contributing factors. This is why this game is such ass.
Well, and also Bethesda.
Yeah, and also Bethesda. But to actually like talk about the news article for a second, like basically the modding scene was never there like it was for any of the other Elder Scrolls games.
Well, did they
And
even release modding tools?
they did. The modding tools released, the game came out what, 20 or not 20, like September? When did it come out? It was 23, right? Like 2023?
September 6th, 2023.
Yeah. I believe the modding tools came out in like January or February of 2024.
Well, let's just put it this way. I start typing Starfield modding, I get modding tools, modding dead.
Yeah. But, the modding scene already wasn't there. A bunch of the modders went back to doing Skyrim mods. And then after the Oblivion remaster came out, that also cannibalized a huge chunk of what was left of the Starfield modding community. So, I mean, yeah. Which sucks. I mean, I talked about
It
this
looks like
at
they're really
length.
pushing paid mods in Starfield as well.
Yeah, of course they are. But I mean, it really sucks, I genuinely wanted Starfield to be good. I genuinely wanted to like Starfield. And I didn't necessarily
I mean,
hate
I
my time
liked
with
it at the very
Starfield, but
beginning because it had a hell of a good start.
yeah.
But as soon as you got to the open world, it all fell apart. Especially if you happen to do, like the one or two good quests, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just, it sucks. But, there's only so much goodwill to go around.
Especially, well, we talked about this off air. Since they released Oblivion Remastered, people are wanting to go back to that because, it's actually a decent game.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing the modding scene that may have went for Starfield go back to a game that has a more substance on the branch,
Yeah.
more meat on the bones to start with and to play around with instead of trying to build the entire thing from scratch. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have my problems with Oblivion. Oh boy, do I. But if I had to choose one, well, I'd be watching Patrick Stewart get killed and possibly Sean Bean.
Right.
But that, of course, requires me to actually finish the fucking quests and not just start downloading mods and fucking around.
Yeah.
Although there is a rumor going around that Oblivion has the old memory leak back, and that the
I'm
game
not
gets
surprised.
game gets unstable after a while.
I'm not surprised. Yeah. Not surprised. But that's okay. I might give that a shot too, just to see how the new or how the remaster plays and the stuff that they changed and updated other than just the graphics.
Well, you can still make your character look like a potato.
You can. I mean, one of my favorite things to do if I was going to make a new stupid character was just hit random until it sped out something that was like an eldritch abomination, which usually didn't take long. But yeah, Starfield. Fart noises. That's how I feel about it. Fart noises. I'm going to fire it back up. I'm going to install it and fire it back up mostly just to do a comparison. Because I remember how hard it was because of how poorly optimized that game was to get it running decently on my setup. And I guess they've, well, I don't know. I was gonna say I guess they've done some optimization, but there's no guarantee. So, but yeah, just do a comparison from my own personal satisfaction.
So speaking of our own personal satisfaction,
Yeah. Uh, hey Rage. How can people get in touch with us if they want to do that?
or you can do so over at the Discord, which you can find a link to that over at vglpodcast.podbean.com. You drop us a email. Do people still do email anymore? Or is that like a millennial thing?
My email at this point is only for business, never for pleasure.
At least with that attitude. But how else are we going to get the funny spam from the Zimbabwe prince, right?
Oh no, whatever will we do?
Well, anyway, you could drop us an email. You could also pop on the Discord. You could text us directly. You think really loud.
Right? Set up a
And,
smoke signal.
and since you know the shrink is in everybody's headspace. He'll just pluck it out and ask
Right.
how does that make you feel
And how does that make you feel?
while
Yep.
while he writes with an obscenely green ink.
Beautifully green ink. I mean, if you want to get in touch with me directly, also, there's Blue Sky. I deleted my Twitter quite some time ago now, but JMA4707 on Blue Sky. And Rachel's phone number is... No, I would never do that.
At least intentionally.
Yeah. Granted, it's been forever since we've texted, just because we communicate primarily or exclusively via Discord, but
Yeah, but
I do have it.
The way the enshittification of Discord's going, right?
Right. When you're right, you're right.
Speaking of enshittification, all the way back at the top.
I suppose.
I mean, we already went over how to contact us. Our patrons have made this enshittification possible. Patreon.com/FuturePodcast. Our website is futurepodcast.podbean.com. And if you wish to spread the enshittification, you can do so and find us on your podcatcher of choice. Our intro and outro music is on the ground by Kevin McLeod. You can find his work over at Computech.com. And
As always, as this lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
see ya.